allowing for various differences because no two historical situations are the same, I don't believe it's significantly different, the relationship between Israel and the Palestinians in general, and the conquest of the conquest of the North American continent, the displacement of the indigenous population, the resistance of the indigenous population. Sometimes the resistance was very brutal. And obviously, in the course of the displacement of the indigenous population in the US, very brutal tactics were resorted to. And I don't believe that it's fundamentally different in the case of Israel and the Palestinians. You could say that Jews had suffered very significant oppression, and maybe that can justify their aspiration to creating a state of their own based on the conclusion that they wouldn't be accepted anywhere else. And there's an argument there. I don't believe the argument carries the day, but there is an argument. And you can also say that a lot of those who came over to the United States would also say they were fleeing all sorts of persecution. But the fundamental fact is, and here I'll quote Israel's chief historian, Benny Morris. If you look at his books, he makes two claims, which in my opinion are equally applicable to the situation in the United States. Claim number one, and now I'm quoting him, is, quote, the fear of territorial dispossession and displacement was the chief motor of Arab antagonism to Zionism. And I would say that's equally valid for the chief motor of Native American resistance to the Euro-American conquest of North America, namely the fear of territorial dispossession and territorial displacement. Now, some might argue, well, maybe they feared it, but that's an irrational fear. But then Benny Morris goes on to say in another one of his books, he said the idea of transfer, that's the euphemism for ethnic cleansing, the idea of transfer was inevitable and inbuilt in Zionism. That in order to realize a state, create a state that was overwhelmingly Jewish in an area that was overwhelmingly non-Jewish, namely Arab Muslim and Arab Christian, the only way to create that Jewish state was through transfer, expulsion, ethnic cleansing. And it was basically the same in the United States. The United States wanted to create a white state. There was no place for non-whites, be it the native population or the African American population. There was no place for equality of status between whites and non-whites. If you take a case like the Cherokee Indians were, they adopted all white, so to speak, all white ways. They created a written language. They had private property. They were so white that they had slaves. They supported the Confederacy during the Civil War. But that didn't prevent the fact that being not white physically, it didn't prevent their periodic displacement and dispossession. They started off on the East Coast, then they were pushed to North Carolina and Mississippi, and then they were in the Trail of Tears. They were then expelled to Arkansas, and then in Arkansas, they were expelled to a little corner of Arkansas. And when the whites population predominated over the Cherokees by roughly 10-1, then they created the state of Oklahoma. So whatever the Cherokee did, there was no way they could, or the Native Americans in general, there was no way they could escape the fate of territorial displacement and dispossession. I think that's basically what happened with the population in the indigenous population in Palestine.